Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are now starting the session on bridging the gap from research to usable products. This topic we will cover it in 3 sessions, 2 sessions with talks, and the last session will be a panel discussion in which most of the speakers will participate. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to write them in the Q&A box. Maybe we can address some of the questions already at the end of each session, but other questions will be then answered in the panel discussion. So please don't hold back, write all your questions in the Q&A box. If they don't get answered straight away, they will be answered in the panel discussion. That means also that you can feel free to ask a bit more general questions, maybe, that several of the speakers will be able to address, maybe. This first session consists of 2 talks. The first talk will be by Gilles Pepin. Gilles is the CEO and the founder of Humanware Canada, and he has over 30 years of experience working in the field of technology and visual impairment. He has a background in engineering, and he is on several boards of directors, but he also is a coach or mentor for technology entrepreneurs. And given that we as a consortium would like our research to somehow end up in the hands of users, the things that Gilles will have to tell us will be of interest to us as a consortium member, but I also think to everyone attending here. So we are very proud to have Gilles here. So please start the presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gilles Pepin. I'm the CEO and founder of Humanware, and I'm very glad to be here today to talk to you about deafblindness and technology. And although I've been working with blind and low vision people for the last 30 years, I have not worked a lot, and I'm not an expert in deafblindness, although we have worked on deafblindness on 1 or 2 products in the past, and some of our products are being used by deafblind people, but by no means, I'm not an expert. So please keep this in mind when I'm going to be presenting the next few slides. So I've been asked to talk to you about how to take a research project like the SUITCEYES project and make it a commercial success. To do that, we'll cover 3 main points today. First, I'll talk about what are the problems we're trying to solve. Second, I'm going to be taking you through the journey of our development process to show how difficult it is to go from an idea to a product that we can produce and manufacture on a simple way. And finally, we'll cover and look at what are the key success factors for a viable commercial product. So without further ado, let's look at the problems we're trying to solve, which is really the first step, I think, in any project when we think about technology and making it a product. So the first element or problems that we're trying to solve is access to information for deafblind people or for visually impaired people as well. And access to information means printed information we find on the web, information we find everywhere that is mainly, it's either visual information or audio information. And I think on our side, when we look at visual information and we try to put it in another format for visually impaired people, we have 3 ways of doing that: either image enhancement, audio rendering, or braille or tactile display. In these 3 cases, I think it could apply to deafblindness because most of the deafblind people are not completely deaf or completely blind. So some of these things can be used in the same way. But obviously, the main format that people will use for deafblind people will be braille and tactile displays. that they're using as to replace visual and sometimes audio information. The other aspects that the Suitcase project has been tackling on is AI for object recognition or scene recognition. And that's obviously another way to have access to information that will be used in the future that I think will tackle the problems that we're trying to tackle. The second problem that we're trying to tackle with the blindness and obviously visual impairment is navigation. Navigation really has to do with two things in my mind: orientation and mobility. So orientation is really taking a person from point A to point B, guiding them through the different streets or places that they need to go. And usually there are two ways to do this. The systems that are on the market, first are the GPS positioning systems, which will guide someone through their journey. And the second one, there are some services of live agent that are quite useful as well to guide a person from point A to point B. The difficulty about mobility is a second problem, which is really going around obstacles and detecting obstacles in front of a deafblind person. For the visual impairment world, the white cane has proven to be a very difficult technology to beat. And the Suitcase project with the EP interface has been quite interesting in my view. And it has the potential, obviously, to replace a white cane, but don't underestimate the power of the technology of a white cane, which is simply a pure reflex for people. So people just scan the white cane in front of them, and whenever they hit an obstacle, it will be a pure reflex. They're going to stop. They're going to go around the obstacle, and that's what makes it so powerful. A blind person or a deaf-blind person doesn't have to use any of its cognitive attention. They can really rely on their reflexes to go around obstacles. Keep in mind that the EP interface will require from the user to use a lot of cognitive attention to what's happening in their back, and they're going to have to interpret that before going around an obstacle. So don't underestimate the white cane as being the main competition in this category of products. The third issue that we're trying to solve is communication. When I say communication, I mean human-to-human communication, verbal communication. And I've looked at the tactile board that has been developed in the Suitcase project, and that's really that one has really a lot of potential. I believe that it is a great portable way of communicating between a sighted person and a deaf-blind person. And there is no real product on the market today that really does that. A lot of people use, though, and we've developed in the past at HumanWare a deaf-blind communicator based on our Braille note. And that device was really the idea of using a Braille display in conjunction with a screen, with a keyboard, so that a deaf-blind person can communicate with a sighted person. So now let's go through our development process. How can we take the Suitcase project, the results, the prototype that you've developed, and make it a commercial product? So let's go through the development process that we follow at HumanWare and see where this would take us in terms of the amount of work that would need to be done. So first, at HumanWare, three teams are really much involved in the development of a product: the product marketing team, the R&D team, and the new product introduction team. So it all starts with a phase that we call the ideation phase. And in the ideation phase, what we do is mainly look at the customer's needs and look at the technical opportunities. So those two things should meet at one point. And the idea is always to, sometimes it comes from a new technology being available, like artificial intelligence nowadays. And what can we do with this to meet some needs that our customers have? And that's a very important step in our process. But sometimes, and it happened in the past quite a few times with Humanware, we've worked with universities and research institutes. And so how do we integrate the ideation process, a research project like SUITCEYES? And that's obviously something that we like to do because it speeds up, and a lot of work is being done by researchers like you. And it's very important for us to have these ideas communicate to us and being able to use in a project to develop a product. But there are two things in the ideation process that we absolutely have to go through. The first is what we call value proposition. So we have to look at how strong the need is and how expensive the technology is to integrate into a product. And when we look at this, we try to understand is what we're developing, do we have enough features, do we bring something to the user that the price will make it for them, that they will say, yes, we're going for it. And the other thing we do a lot of voice of customers. So we sit down with customers, sometimes with mock-ups that just, a few buttons just to show people what the initial concept of the product is, so that they can give us some feedback. And they contribute a lot to the value proposition evaluation that we do to make sure that this idea should be developed into a product. Once we've done that, we go to the next phase that we call product definition and requirements. And the product definition and requirements is really about defining further the idea into a product concept and review what we call product positioning. So making sure the product is positioned regarding, compared to competition, compared to different products that are out there. So that's a really important point also to review product positioning. And this ends up with two very important steps as well. One is the business case, and that's where we ask ourselves, is this a viable product really? Are we going to develop it and because the next steps are costly. It's really the development of the product. So are we doing the right thing from a financial point of view, from a commercial point of view? And the last one, and within this business case, we look at one thing, the Msrp, so the manufacturer suggested retail price, and the cost of goods sold. So we need to understand, is this a product that we can bring to the market with a price point, knowing that we are going to define a cost target for that product. So how much it's going to cost us to build that product. Then once we've cleared that and we're all okay with this and everybody has to sign off in these three themes, we go to the next phase, which is called product specification. And this is the responsibility of the R&D team. And what they do basically is they define the use cases. They choose the platforms and components, electronics. They also look very carefully at the COGS target. So they will confirm, are we able to meet the cost target that we have so we can meet the Msrp? And they also evaluate the project cost, which is obviously very important, and the schedule we're going to have to follow to get there. Then the development phase as such, where you have alpha, beta, or release candidate. So we have different steps. And throughout that process, we have a voice of customers and testing of the product all the way. And the output of that is a BOM. A BOM is a bill of material. So we list all of the parts that needs to be done. And we come up with what we call a production package, a manufacturing package. But in there, one important step is what we call design for manufacturing. The design for manufacturing is an important step because very often when we go from a prototype to a product, the prototype is not easy to manufacture and will be very costly to manufacture if we don't go through that process of design for manufacturing. Then obviously we transfer to production and finally to mass production. And I just wanted to say that we have a go, no-go decision whenever a critical change is made compared to the product requirements that was defined by the marketing team. Now, what I wanted to address with you is mainly, what does it mean if we were to start from the suitcase prototype and try to come up with a commercial product? So those steps that are there on the screen are really the ones that we need to review before we go into the development phase itself. So we would have to review the whole product concept with you. We would have to think of the features that you've put in the project. Very often, research projects will have a very broad scope for the first product. And in manufacturing, we have something that we call the minimum viable product, the MVP, which we tend to focus very well on a number of features on the product instead of trying to do everything in the first version. So the minimum viable product is a very important step, and we have to be very realistic about what can be done in there. Well, you have made some choices also, and very often when we design a prototype, we probably over-design the product. So the choice of platform, the choice of components that you will have made in the suitcase prototype might have to be changed completely, and we might have to redesign the whole thing because choices have been made for a broader scope than the minimum viable product that we're going to be aiming at. Also, the COGS target, probably we would have to review, make sure that what the choices that have been made now or reviewed will meet the COGS target that we have in mind. And as I said, the design for manufacturing might mean that we're going to have to review the whole definition of the product, how it's built, just to make sure that we can manufacturing it easily. So that's the development process. And I guess my point is going from a prototype to a commercial product is a huge task. And a lot of things have to be redesigned or reviewed before we can talk about a mass production product. That being said, I'd like to review with you the key success factors for a viable commercial product. We've talked about product positioning. We've talked about the price point versus the COGS. But the margin to dealers is also a very important point when you want to be successful. We're going to be talking about the distribution channel in a minute. But keep in mind that for a product to be successful commercially, we have to have a price point that people will be ready to pay for. And also you have to understand that most of those products for deafblind people, for vision impaired people as well, are paid for by funding programs in different countries around the world. And if you are within a product category, then there is a price point, there is a maximum price, or there is competition within that category that will make it that you're going to have to position your product with this price point. We've talked about the value proposition. That's also something that everybody will consider. So one of the points that you have to keep in mind is when we design a product, usually we will want to make it fit in an existing product category where funding programs are used to deal with that kind of products, and that the price point will fit in most of those programs. The second key success factor that I want to touch base on with you is the launch activities. There is a lot of things to be done by the marketing team before launching a product. The announcement, the promotion material are things that needs to be done carefully, but the training material for the users and the sales team and the dealers. So we want to make sure that, and we have this concept of a certification process for our sales team, for the distributors that we use. We want to make sure that those people, including the users, have all the information and the training material to make this product easy to use by the end users, easy to demonstrate by our dealers and our sales team. And that's extremely important. Then you have to focus on the sales. One thing we used to do that didn't work well at all, we were launching a product spending a few weeks just announcing it and training our people. Nowadays, for some years, what we've been launching is what we call the sales POA, the plan of action. And this is more about focusing on launching a product. A product will not be successful on the market just by launching it. It takes a lot of efforts. And nowadays our POAs are about 6 months. So we launch about 2 products per year. And we focus our teams and our sales distribution channels. We focus them on this product. And we have a number of activities and promotions to make sure that the product will be adopted by the market. And one other thing we do in our launch activities, we monitor very carefully the market reactions to the product. So we're trying to be extremely fast at reacting to any issue, any problems that people are raising, and making sure that we're not going to kill our product on the market because some people have bad experience with the product. The third aspect is the distribution channel. This is critical, obviously. The more, at Humanware, we have a network of about 250 distributors worldwide. And we want to empower those people to be extremely efficient at selling our product. So we have to give them a good margin. We have to train them carefully. And these processes are extremely important for us. I've talked about the certification process, but I also want to say that when we launch a new product, localization is also of a great importance. The last point, and not the least, is the after-sales services that we offer. And if you cannot offer those services, your product will die rapidly in the market. So you have to offer customer service and technical support. People will call us very often to ask questions, or we'll call our dealers to ask questions about the product that they just bought. The repair and maintenance services, spare products needs to be maintained, cleaned up on a regular basis to work properly. And obviously we do have some repairs to do on our products. So that's extremely important. And the last thing is we have to enhance the product as we go. If we stop working and improving and adding features to a product, the market will react very badly about that. And they're going to think that this product is going to die. So a lot of more R&D work needs to be done to bring that product to be successful in the market. So thank you very much, and I'll be certainly open for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. We will. There are some questions for Gilles already in the Q&A box. We will. He will address those questions at the end of this session after the second talk. The second presentation will be by Dick Lunenborg and Eric Van Heuvelen. Dick and Eric both work at Bartimeus, which is a non-profit organization for the visually impaired. It is located in the Netherlands. Many of their clients have a combination of sensory, visual loss and other disabilities. They work in a department called FabLab. And at FabLab, they bridge, so to say, the gap between the work floor and technological solutions. And they work in a very client-driven way. And we're going to hear about how they approach bringing technology to their clients. So please start the presentation.
Good afternoon and welcome to the workshop where we will, illustrated by practical examples, guide you through the creative process in which we will show how technology can help to get from problem to solution for people with deafblindness. My name is Dick Lunenborg, and together with my colleague Eric Van Heuvelen, it is our daily job to make technology available for persons with a multiple disability, including those with deafblindness, so that they can benefit from technology just like anyone else in society. This presentation is divided in 3 parts. First, we would like to share the importance of e-inclusion from our organization's point of view. That every person should be included into the same digital society that everybody else is living in, and also how we executed this vision in the setup of a special task force. My colleague Eric will give some real-life practical examples where technology helps people with deafblindness to overcome a problem. In conclusion, we will share some lessons learned and future plans in the work field technology for deafblind. We are part of the organization Bartimeus. Bartimeus is just one of the 2 organizations catering to the visual impaired in the Netherlands. We provide special education for 200 internal students. Our ambulatory attendants cater to the needs of 800 external students. We have 600 residents in 24-hour care, and we support 10,000 external clients. Bartimeus has more than 105 years of experience, and you can find us at 17 locations, and we have 1,500 colleagues. At our living arrangement facility, we cater to the needs of about 100 deafblind clients and provide 24-hour care. 50 of them have congenital deafblindness and the other half has acquired deafblindness. In this day and age, we are living in a digital society. A lot of different technologies make our life easier, and we are able to do things we never could do before. And mostly we don't even realize how fast the developments in technology are moving. Just imagine how would your life be now if sudden all technology would disappear out of your life. No internet, no mobile phone, no other smart tools. Just imagine the impact it would have on you. But if I would ask the same question to a person with deafblindness, the impact would be very small compared to us because they are hardly using technology. There are 4 main reasons for the digital divide. First, when someone has multiple disabilities, the common solutions for the visual impaired are too complex. To use a braille display, you have to be able to read braille. And to use audio description, you need to be able to hear. And a lot of solutions made for persons with learning difficulties are not useful because they compensate written text with visualizations and animations. Second, there are almost no ready-made solutions specifically developed for this target group. Commercially, the demand is not yet sufficient to interest suppliers and create a market. Third, there's not a lot of advocacy from the target group and the network of what they want and why they want it. Finally, also, implementation is not easy. Learning new skills takes time, requires support and considerable patience by all involved. So, why should we go to so much trouble to use technology with such a complex target group? We believe that they should be included in the same digital society that everybody else is living in. Bartimeus' vision is that every client has the right to have access to technology, including those with additional needs. It can compensate a disability. It can enhance communication, give access to information, enrich leisure activities, encourage learning and stimulation, and aid spatial orientation and coordination. 12 years ago, a special task force, the Bartimaeus Fab Lab, was set up with the goal to encourage e-inclusion. The Fab Lab has three main functions. First, consult and advise. Clients, parents and professionals can get advice to solve a problem with technology. Secondly, share information. We raise awareness of the importance and benefits of enabling clients to experience technology. We are doing that for clients, parents and professionals. Finally, research and innovation. By researching and exchange knowledge with colleagues in and outside the Netherlands, we try to be up to date with the newest developments. Sometimes solutions don't exist and we have to develop our own. We do this mostly with co-creation. As I shared earlier, there are only a few ready-made solutions suitable for persons with a multiple disability. Our strategy to find new technology is as follows. First of all, we search for products which are already on the market. For example, consumer electronics or products made especially for a person with a disability. Often you use the product in another way than it originally was intended for. For example, the use of the haptic vibration of an Apple Watch used for silent alarm. Sometimes you can adapt an existing product to make it accessible and cater to the needs of a person. And if we can't find a solution, we will research and query within our network to find whether what solution already has been developed or prototyped. And in some cases, there is an opportunity to co-create to prevent reinventing the wheel. And when it is absolutely not possible to use the aforementioned methods, the only option left is to develop your own custom-made solutions.
There are many ways to use technology for people with deafblindness. In this presentation, we limit ourselves to 3 examples based on the cognitive possibilities of the client. I want to discuss the navigation belt, in which learning skills are key, and this aid can be useful for a client with a reasonably high cognition. The heartbeat. Learning to use this tool is based on conditional learning. This aid doesn't require a high cognition. And the pen case sensor. This aid is based on already known and used skills. Technology is added without the client knowledge of this. For people with deafblindness, indoor navigation is difficult. For example, to find your way from the living room to the bedroom or from the living room to the toilet. Therefore, the challenge was to design a tool to help a person with deafblindness to independently increase his indoor mobility. We came up with walking a route indoor controlled by haptic signals. This resulted in the development of a belt with vibrating motors. The haptic feedback should provide guiding signals to move independently from room to room. Infrared beacons are tactically placed on a route and sensors in the belt receive the infrared signals. Vibrations in the belt and the vibration motors are placed in the front, rear, left and right side of the belt indicates the location of the sensor. If there is a vibration at the left in the belt, you know you have to make a quarter turn to the left to feel the vibration on the front, the walking direction. Several routes, at this moment 2, can be guided by the belt. For this purpose, drawstrings are attached to the belt each with a specific referrer. The navigation belt was developed in response to a request of a client with deafblindness, which has been submitted to the potential users. This solution, the belt, turns out to be workable, but also requires adjustments in the building, for instance, installing and powering the infrared sensors. The navigation belt, unfortunately, is not very flexible. Once placed, it's not easy to change and requires a reasonable high cognition to be able to use this tool. Spin-off of this idea is working with haptic signals of vibrations in a belt, but also, for instance, in a sleeve or a vest, and is being further thought out and applied. Experiences so far? It's helpful, but a bit difficult to implement because it requires a lot of infrastructure adaptation at home. Learning skills of the client might be a threshold. Many people with deafblindness are living in a world of touch and proximity. As a result, they often do not know who is in the room or who is nearby, whether these people are open to contact and whether they can identify requests for help. Because of this, they feel alone quite often. They can't always rely on help from someone, and this can damage the sense of basic safety of people with deafblindness. It is desirable that people with deafblindness are able to make contact with their caretaker. The heartbeat is a communication tool that allows a person with deafblindness to stay in touch with the caretaker or the social partner. By the intensity of the heartbeat's vibrations, the person with deafblindness is able to feel the caretaker getting closer. A box is given to the person with deafblindness, and on this box is a button. The caretaker wears a pager. The box emits a pulse which varies in speed depending on the distance of the social partner. If the person with deafblindness calls the social partner by touching the button, he can feel the social partner is getting closer because the interval between the pulses becomes shorter. You can feel the heartbeat of the caretaker approaching. The heartbeat is a tool which comes with a corresponding intervention plan. This intervention plan describes how this tool should be introduced to the deafblind person and what the training looks like when used. In our opinion, without this intervention plan, the heartbeat cannot be used. Learning to use this tool requires a long adaptation time, especially aimed at conditioning in use. The deafblind person has to experience the meaning of the signals that the heartbeat emits and what the ultimate consequence is: contact with the caretaker. Working with the heartbeat requires a lot of guidance due to habitation time at persons with deafblindness. Response so far is very positive, and there is potential to expand the idea of approaching combined with haptic signals, for instance, other situations like approaching bedridden children. The next case is about a deafblind client. He is completely deaf and completely blind and has an intellectual disability. He has one-on-one care the whole day. The client uses a pencil case as a referrer. This pencil case is always up for grabs for him. When he picks up this case, he indicates that he wants to have contact with his caretaker. This way of communicating has been common to him for several years. If there is no quick response picking up the case, the client shows unwanted behavior. However, it's not always possible or immediately noticed by his caretaker that the client has picked up the case. That's why they asked the FabLab to help to solve this problem: how to prevent not noticing the client picking up the pencil case. Our starting point: follow clients' habits and follow activities that are in line with existing working methods. So, a new referrer has been made, also in the same shape of his well-known pencil case, in line with what he is familiar with. Only in this version the pencil case has a triangular shape, so it can be placed stable on a table. Inside the pencil case, sensors are built which will react as soon as the client picks up the case. As a result, a buzzer built into a receiver that the caretaker carries with him will sound. This is the signal for the caretaker the client has picked up his referrer and wants to get in contact. And the experience so far is very positive. There is more accurate response to the client. The lessons learned. A lot of interaction during the development process between developer and user or caretaker is necessary and important. Adjustments can be made in time, so eventually the solution is in line with the original problem. Implementation of technical tools or solutions for people with deaf blindness takes a lot of time. You have to take small steps and, very important, you must feel well by these small steps. Never lose sight of the final goal. As my colleague Dick mentioned earlier, there are almost no ready-made solutions specifically developed for people with deaf blindness combined with intellectual disabilities. For developers, there's a lot of potential. And we have to join the forces, learning from each other and exchange knowledge. That's very important, also international cooperation. For that reason, in 2020, we started the Deaf Blind International Technology Network. The focus of this network is on the broad field of technology that is applicable for people with deaf blindness, both acquired and congenital. The network aims to find technology that encourages self-determination, communication, independence, and entertainment. We have reached the end of our presentation. If you would like to have more information, please contact us or find us on the internet www.bartimeus.nl/fablab.
Thank you, Eric and Dick. We have now 2 minutes for questions, and we have plenty more time for questions in the panel discussion later. I think there is maybe a quick question that Gilles might want to address now. There are 2 questions and they're related. One is, how much time does it take to bring a product to the market? And the other one is related to that because it says, how long does it take to transition from the ideation phase to mass production in the experience of humanware? So if you could say something on this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Myrthe. I think there are 3 different cases. When we start from an existing product and we build a new version of that product, it's about 12 months. When we build a new product, but in an existing category of products, so a competitive products that just brings incremental innovation, then we talk about 18 months. And when we introduce what we call disruptive technologies, so new products that are completely, using new technologies and addresses new needs, then we talk about 24 months and plus. So, sometimes it takes 3 years, 4 years before we can bring a product to the market. And artificial intelligence is a good example of that, where we've been working for the last 4 years on mastering that technology and adapting it to our needs and see what kind of problems we can solve with this. And so these are the 3 different categories of work that we do.
Thank you, Gilles. So that sounds to be that it is quite in line of what Dick and Eric just said in their presentation, that developing technology for accessibility actually is quite time consuming to do. Let's see the time. Okay, it's 3:45. We have to move on now for the break. I'm looking forward to talk to all of you, Eric, Gilles, and Dick, later in the panel discussion. And we will now go for a break. And the next session will start at 4 CET. So see you in 15 minutes.